Tune in this week's episode. We talk you through the talking points and walking points of starting your own business.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Joe Ferranti and Jerry Kenna. Produced by Nathan Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is brought to you by Duro Cleaners. Luxury laundry care conveniently delivered to your door. Visit DuroCleaners.com because life's better without laundry.
All right, Between Two Bridges. I'm Joe, here with Jerry. Tuning into episode 71 here. Middle of March, in the middle of tax season. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's kind of all-encompassing this time of year.
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
tough. It's kind of the life I lead this time of year. It's all we do.
Yeah, I remember there was a movie, We in the Biz.
Yeah.
You're in the biz.
Yeah, it's become my life. Everything else takes a back seat. You know, it's tough. You know, I've been with my wife long enough that this is just, you know, she's used to this.
Right.
It's a little hard on the kids, you know.
As they get older too, yeah, I bet.
You know, but you know,
there was a commercial back in the day. It was maybe Dunkin' Donuts or a donut commercial where every morning
make the donuts.
Gotta make the donuts.
I say it all the time.
Yeah, my kids they're privy to that. Like, so this Monday was the first Monday that I got the kids on the bus in the morning and off the bus.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But, you know, when we got home, we were like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, we got all this stuff to do for the business. So we worked on it and got my prison cell set up. I currently have an office with a toilet, a sink, and a desk.
I love it. I love it.
So it's I'm allowed to go and get a cup of coffee in the kitchen though. So it's not exactly like prison. It's like.
So you're eating. Do you eat in the bathroom?
No, I have a kitchen.
Okay.
I almost did it the other day, and I thought better. I was like,
Did you have it thoroughly cleaned before you started using it as a bathroom or as a kitchen, as a office?
well, it's my bathroom.
Do you still use it as a bathroom?
It's my bathroom. Like,
So
the
you're like-
employees don't like say, hey, Joe, you doing paperwork?
So wait a second. Let's get this straight. You're sitting there at the desk. You're working, doing your thing, doing your spreadsheets, planning your delivery route for tomorrow.
Something rumbles in my belly. I get up and go to the bathroom.
You just go to the bathroom right there?
It's an ensuite, bro.
So fucked up.
It's not like I invite people into
I
my
guess it
office.
wouldn't make sense to be like, get up, walk out of that bathroom to go into the next bathroom and go to the bathroom in there.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we'll remove the throne and everything.
What would be really fucked up is if one of the other employees came in and used the bathroom while you're in there.
That's what I told them. I said, we're going to play a game. Is he pooping or is he doing paperwork?
Oh, that's great.
I do lock the door when I'm pooping. I don't lock the door when I'm just doing paperwork. So that's one thing.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But,
Are you going to eventually have the bathroom removed?
Yeah. You know, and I saw they have like this thing called a hide-a-loo in the UK.
Okay.
There's so many cool things in like the UK and Europe, but it like swings flat to the wall. And
The toilet?
Yeah, and it looks like a shelf.
Really?
And then it swings out and you can go to the bathroom on it.
Where does the shit go?
It's piped in. It just looks like a box on the wall. It almost looks like a radiator on the wall.
Wow.
I'm like, man, they thought everything there, but
Yeah.
obviously they're not available here. Allegheny County, surely.
Yeah, that's not gonna, that's not up to code.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not up to code, you know.
That'll blow
Cash
that
and-
inspector's mind.
Cashing checks and depositing checks in the same room is
That's
probably
hilarious.
But yeah, I realized though, like today, I think, and I hope, I mean, today's my payday. I did payroll earlier than I've ever done.
I noticed.
So it's because I'm in the process of like, okay, get this done here before you go home. Because, we all know, once you're on your way home, it's over. Like, once you get home.
Work has been so busy, and because I've had to work such late hours, the one thing that's nice with this software change that we've made is now that everything's cloud-based, I do have the ability to do work at home now.
Right.
So that has been nice, that I have the ability to take some of this work home with me. So nights where, like last night, I did have a lot of work that I needed to get done, but I was able, and I knew that we were going to be here late tonight with the podcast. So I went home somewhat early. I mean, it was still, I think, 8:00, but I went home and it was before the kids were in bed, so that I could put the kids to bed, see them before they went to sleep. And then I got my laptop out and went back to work. Still worked till midnight. But I was able to work at home so that I could at least see the kids, because I figured I'm probably not going to see them tonight. But being able to work at home is nice. Being able to function and actually have access to the software at home. And we actually took the step even further, and our files, one of the limitations even with the switch in the software is that a lot of our, we have a server here, and that was always a limitation, that, our files are here. The software being online is one thing, but our data files were always in the office. We have backups in case of a catastrophe or whatever, but I even took the step of switching everything to cloud-based server. So now everything is cloud-based, so I can even access all of our files online.
It's funny to hear you talk openly about saying that you have a cloud-based server, because, think back 8-9 years ago, people thought that was like voodoo.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Jesus Christ, But like our stuff's all cloud-based. So like I can, like back when I had the storefront, they'd be like, we can't find so-and-so stuff. And I could go back through the history, I could look at everything they were looking at. But like customers were weary. Everybody used to be weary about the cloud. Like, oh.
Yeah, some people used to be like, oh, it's somewhere in the desert over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice because I can pull a file or a spreadsheet that I worked on from anywhere.
Right.
I can be at a conference in Arizona.
Yeah, if one of your employees has a quick question, you can be eye to eye with it.
Yeah.
Go through it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cloud, how about that dust shit on your cars?
I heard all about it, but I don't know if there was a little bubble over Oakmont and we didn't hit it.
I got it in Cheswick and I got it at home.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird.
My truck, my truck didn't get dirty.
Oh, you have a white truck though.
Right, but everybody was talking about how it was like all over the windshield and stuff. I'm like, I have a tree over my house, so maybe the tree caught it.
I think they said it came in the snow or whatever.
Yeah.
But like my roof, I have a black metal roof. It's the dirtiest it's ever been right now.
Really?
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's crazy. I've heard so many stories about it, but I didn't seem to really affect us.
I was listening to a guy, he said, I gathered a bunch of the dust, and it was metal, it was magnetic, and it was from SpaceX.
Really?
I'm like, wow.
From SpaceX, huh?
SpaceX exploded into Oakmont somehow.
It seems like there is a trend that all that is wrong with the world right now
It's Elon's fault.
is Elon Musk's fault.
Yeah. Although, like, in 2022, when he donated $5.7 billion to help people, multiple organizations.
Yeah, that was nothing was his fault then.
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. They say the higher up the ladder you go, the more your ass sticks out. So I guess he's in that point right now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So tonight's episode, I was thinking, what the fuck are we going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And something that I always think about, and what we've talked about lately a lot, is the gig economy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these little gigs going on.
Yeah.
And in your profession, you see people come and go. But one of the things that I kind of think that our listeners could benefit from, other than us bitching about everything.
Yeah, we do a lot of that.
Well, we're good at it. Our wives don't listen to us. That's why. We come here and just bounce bitches off each other.
Yeah. They don't listen to us complain, so we have to complain to each other.
Right. So one of the things I was thinking about, like, I know that when I first set my company up, I set it up wrong. Right? So you have all these people out here, like, we're trying to talk to people that are either in business for themselves or trying to get there. So I don't know what the first step for someone that's, other than making money and revenue, generating revenue, You need that for business.
Yeah.
You need a product or a service that people want.
Yep.
But like, so you're there, and other than just picking up the phone and calling Jerry, or calling a tax preparer or a bookkeeper or someone, a lawyer. A lawyer's a big one. A lot of people call lawyers.
Right.
They write, three people work for a company. They get a user handbook for their employees that costs them $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's not the first step, right?
It can be a first step, and honestly, if there's more than one person involved, it should probably be your first step.
Employee handbook?
Not an employee handbook, but
Get a lawyer.
you're getting a lawyer and trying to set up the structure of the company, trying to get the company organized and figuring it out. So one of the questions that I get a lot of times whenever somebody's trying to start out this business is how to set it up, how to get started. People either way underthink it or way overthink it. Okay. So some people just, when they underthink it, they just start out and they're just going out there and they're doing it and they're putting the money in their personal account and they're just like, meh, and they're not keeping track of anything. And, and then next thing you know, the end of the year comes and they're not keeping track, and maybe they set up an account on Amazon or on eBay or, something like that. And, next thing you know, a 1099K shows up and they sold $15,000 worth of product. And now with the limitations on how much you can sell online without it being reported to the IRS, all of a sudden that got reported. And now, oh my God, I have to pay taxes on that. We're getting a lot of that this year,
right?
Where people are having to report income from these little side hustles that they've never really had to report before. Now, even to the point where I've had a lot of people that, and I think we may have talked about it in past episodes, where people that it wasn't even really a business, it was just selling shit on eBay.
Right. Yeah, we talked about the guy that was selling us tools and
just
shit.
selling old shit on his garage. So, but so you have the people that are completely underthinking it and just thinking, I'm just selling some shit on eBay and this isn't a business. And then you have your people that are way overthinking it. And those are the people that you ever hear the term analysis paralysis,
right?
Where you're so over analyzing it that you just never take that step. And that's probably even worse.
Right.
So starting a business doesn't have to be that difficult. I mean, you can set it up. It doesn't necessarily have to be an LLC. It doesn't have to be a corporation. It can be as simple as just set up a separate bank account and set up an account on eBay or Etsy or whatever online platform, Shopify, whatever. Just start selling something.
Right, you just go to PNC or SSB and open an account.
Open up an account, and
you don't need an EIN for it.
You don't. You can set it up with your social security number. And so in Pennsylvania, some states may be different, but in Pennsylvania, you can set up it's called a DBA, a doing business as.
Okay. So
if you were to set up a business, so when I very first got into business, starting out, I could do accounting services, and I didn't even have to register with the state. I could name my company, my name, and what I was doing without registering it. So I could name it Kenna Accounting Services. It's not a fictitious name. That is not fictitious. So I don't have to register. I don't have to pay anybody. I could register with my social security number. It's nothing. So I go to the bank tomorrow, any bank, and I could say, I want to set up a business checking account under my social security number, and it could be Jerry Kenna, doing business as Kenna Accounting Services. Okay. And the most important thing is that you keep track of your money that you're receiving and what you're spending. So if you're selling products online, you have to keep track of what you're spending on those products. You have to keep track of the fees that the websites are charging you, shipping costs, maybe credit card processing fees, any expenses that are necessary for the operation of your business. Those are valid expenses. Keep track of them. Now, you may not come up with all of them, and that's okay. And there's more, you may sit down with your tax preparer at the end of the year, and if they're worth what you're paying them, he may sit down with you and say, she may sit down with you and say, okay, well, you don't have anything on here for your cell phone. I mean, you're using your cell phone for business, right? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, you're selling stuff online, so we should write off a portion of your internet. You're doing these things from home, so let's talk about your home. We can maybe do a portion of business use of your home. You're driving to go pick up product to sell it, so we can take some mileage on your vehicle. Or, there's other expenses that maybe he can help you bring to light. But the most important thing is that if you're spending money on something, that you need to keep track of that. And if you're receiving money, you need to keep track of that. Just because you didn't receive a 1099 for money that you brought in does not mean that you don't have to count that money. Okay, so if you're selling primarily on eBay and you receive a 1099 from $10,000 on eBay, but you went to a craft show and you sold $2,000 at a craft show, you didn't get a 1099 for that $2,000. You still have to claim that $2,000. Right. So you have to keep track. So don't think about the underthinking thing. You have to keep track.
Yeah, I think the analysis paralysis is like a great concept, because there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than you and I that have a 9-to-5, that hate their life, that have had a really good idea, and they just couldn't.
They won't pull the trigger.
That not only just pull the trigger, they just won't even talk to people about it. Like they would never call. Like, I know that there's all these business consultants out there, but like if you think that you have a really good idea, you need to go forward with it.
Yeah. Just do it.
I mean, I don't want to call my wife out, but when she moved back here from Hawaii, and she's told me this multiple times, we wouldn't be together if she would have done this. But she like invented curbside groceries. Like, it was her. She was like, wouldn't it be nice if you could just be out at the store, like sitting in your car, drinking your coffee, listening to the radio, and they're shopping in there for you and bring it to your car. And she was like, I just don't know how you make it happen. Well, while she was thinking about that, there was a lot of people thinking about that. Mm-hmm. But instead of like running it up the ladder and figuring it out, someone else figured it out.
Yeah.
And during COVID, it saved grocery stores. But she's an analysis person for sure.
Yeah, you can't.
Which there's place for. That's why we're together.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about doing it, you take the steps and do it. Now, if you're in that process, you want to take it a step further.
Yeah, at what point do you have to take it further? Can you make $250,000 a year selling stuff on eBay under your name?
Yeah, I mean, I have a client that I'm not going to, blow him up and give too much detail on what he does, because I don't think that would be right for him. That's a little professional courtesy. But I have a client that started out selling a product online, and it started out just a small little side hustle, selling something that to most people you would think, how much could you possibly make selling that?
Yeah.
And over a course of, I don't know, I would say maybe it's probably been 10 years. But he's at the point now where his gross sales, and he also has a job working in like a corporate position. And I think he's making decent money. But he's making more in gross sales in his side job, selling stuff online between like eBay and Amazon and in a website, Etsy, than he is at his day job. And it's just grown, and every year it grows and grows and grows. And, and it's a job, it's a side hustle that to most people, if I told you what he was selling, you'd be like, really? But there's a market for it.
Off air, you can tell me off air.
Yeah, I'll tell you off air. But to most people, you'd be like, really? That's it? But there's a market for it. There's people out there buying it, and he's doing great with it. And it's allowed him to have a great life and be able to spend money on things that maybe
Gave him
he
a little
wouldn't
bit of
do
fuck
with his
you
day job.
money.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's going to provide him the ability to retire early and then take that to be his full-time gig and go into retirement where he's going to have a 401k and Social Security and supplement that with this side job that really isn't a tremendous amount of work because he's doing it while he's also working a 40-hour work week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you for listening. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Streamline your life with Duro Cleaners' complete pickup and delivery service. From your doorstep to their state-of-the-art cleaning facility and back, all without you lifting a finger. Get time back in your day and fresh, ready-to-go clothes. And just wait, big things are coming soon to make your experience even better. Visit DuroCleaners.com because life's better without laundry. And now, back to the show.
But then there's going to be a point where you may want to consider setting up an LLC and potentially taking that LLC and electing to treat it as a subchapter S corporation. And there's other things. And that's when I said that you may want to consult an attorney or an accountant and determine what entity structure best suits your business and for tax savings and liability protection. And there's other things that you may need to consult professionals.
Yeah, we should have just changed the name of the cleaners, like Joe Cleans Clothes.
LLC.com.
.com. Is it, like that would work for the state, or you have to have a first name, last name?
So without a fictitious name, it has to be your last name and what you do.
Huh. Yeah. That's something I never. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why they don't crack down on kids cutting grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, and a lot of people do. But you could set up a fictitious name in Pennsylvania. It's $70.
Yeah,
and
it's
easy.
instant.
It's easy and it's $70.
Yeah, that's fun though. I mean, that's so like you get the fictitious name,
and you don't need an EIN for a fictitious name. You could still do an EIN. You could still do a Social Security
feel about that?
What's that?
Like if you do a fictitious name, it's like
the bank doesn't give a shit. Yeah. You don't need an EIN unless you're going to hire an employee or if you're going to get an LLC.
Huh.
A fictitious name just allows you to have a name besides your last name.
Yeah, because I had the fictitious name for we did the golf outing. Yinsbidge was my and I got a bank account for it because I wanted people to write checks.
Exactly. The bank just wants a fictitious name so that you can have somebody write a check and it's not your last name. Yeah. That's all the fictitious name is. But you have to keep in mind, and again, we're based in Pennsylvania. The vast majority of my knowledge is Pennsylvania law, right? So Pennsylvania, if you have a fictitious name, that's not a protected name. So in Pennsylvania, if you have an LLC or a corporation, that name is protected. So my company name is Landmark Business Solutions. I'm a corporation. I'm an Inc. So if you were to set up a company right now, Landmark Business Solutions Inc., you can't. I own it. In the state of Pennsylvania, nobody in Pennsylvania can set up that company name. It's mine. Now, if I only registered a fictitious name, Landmark Business Solutions, you could set up an LLC, Landmark Business Solutions LLC or Landmark Business Solutions Inc. You could steal it. So a fictitious name allows you to use that name. It does not protect that name. An LLC or an Inc. protects that name. So if you're going to spend $70 on a fictitious name, in my opinion, spend $125 and get the LLC.
Right. So I can start Landmark too.
You could. So when I tell people, when I'm working with somebody to set up a new company and there's a state website where you can search entity names and we work together, and my real estate clients do this all the time because a lot of times when you're buying a piece of real estate, you're looking for some sort of holding company name, right? So it's not super important. It's just a name for that property. A lot of times they use the address. Sometimes they'll initials or whatever,
dogs,
right?
Cats.
Yeah. Family initials, whatever. Something that's kind of miscellaneous. A lot of times they have a management company that's actually receiving the rent check, so they really don't give a shit what the owner of the company is, the owner of the actual property. But we'll search the names, try to come up with one that's unique. But if you're a business and you're trying to be unique and you're opening up a dry cleaner, that's not even a great example. Say you're opening up a construction
dry
company.
cleaners nowadays.
Yeah. Say you're opening up a construction company, okay? And you want to use the name Alpha Construction. Just random name popped in my head. And it's probably guarantee it's not available.
Right.
But say for some crazy example, it's available in Pennsylvania, okay? Now we're in Pittsburgh area. We're 45 minutes from the Ohio border, right? Say it's available in Pennsylvania, but we did a quick Google search and there's a Alpha Construction in Youngstown, Ohio. So theoretically, we could set it up. But we do a quick Google search and the Alpha Construction that's in Youngstown, Ohio has a 1-star Google review. Do you want to be associated with that Alpha Construction?
No, you got to be the Alpha. Tell them to shut it down.
I would come up with a different name.
Right.
Because I don't want anybody to Google my company name and them get me and that company confused. And geographically, we're too close.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think it's same owner. It's just too much. So whenever I'm working with a new company that's especially in an industry like that, if you're talking about rental holdings, nobody gives a shit. But if you're talking about a service business or anything like that, I'm doing a Google search. I'm doing a trademark search. I'm doing a domain name search because I'm thinking ahead of that. I'm thinking of marketing.
I think the domain name's like, you got to look for that first. I use that as like my jumping point.
Because I'm thinking, I'm going to set up a website for this. Is the website available?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to try to market this brand. And if the website's not available, then I'm going to start from scratch here because that's all part of the thing. So just because the name's available in Pennsylvania doesn't really mean shit to me because this is not you may be a construction company and you're going to be just doing business in Pittsburgh, but we're a global world right now. And
right. Well, a lot of my $37 ideas have died at GoDaddy.com.
Yeah.
Just like,
do you know there's a whole industry in flipping domains?
Yeah.
Interesting as hell to me.
Talk about analysis by paralysis. Like back when we used to get these like books of like college football previews. And I thought it'd be so cool. It was right when like AOL and everything was popping off. So I thought it'd be so cool to like go through like the top 100 prospects and just buy like BenRoethlisberger.com, TroyAikman.com, and just buy them all. And you probably would have made some money.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a big business because
yeah.
And I think that you got to be careful too. And this is just my brain. If you start looking too much at a domain and not pulling the trigger to buy it, I feel like GoDaddy or somebody knows that somebody's about to buy it. Mm-hmm. And if you go back like a month from now, it's not going to be available.
It's not available, or they jack the price up. Because you might be right.
Yeah.
They may be looking at those search results. And
airlines do it. You start looking for flights from here to Florida.
I've kind of tinkered with that. I never really had any success with it, but I thought about doing that. And because I thought about, talk about an easy thing to flip. Because you could buy a domain name for what, $14?
Yeah. So if you knew the Democrat and Republican president candidate.
Oh, yeah.
In 2028?
2028, yeah.
Yeah, you just knew you give their last name, buy everything around it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that like these athletes.
I was trying to think of doing ones that were like with funny current events. Yeah, it was, I thought it was funny. I never had any success. I never sold anything.
Yeah. I feel like anything that I could do to make money fast is illegal. So I'll just stick to what I know.
Yeah.
So
never really works out.
But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of something that we've talked about it like different episodes, chopped it up. But
yeah,
like I always knew there was probably a way that people, because it's hard to like, hey, I'm selling you this service or I'm selling you this. And then who do I make the check out to? Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Joe Ferretti.
Yeah. The other thing to make sure you do is if you do set up that LLC, it's very important that you use the LLC correctly. A lot of times I'll see people set up the LLC and then they're still having clients that are writing checks to their personal bank accounts. They're using money in their LLC for personal use. You can't do that. the whole purpose of an LLC is for liability protection, but that liability protection only works if you treat it as the separate entity that it is. So you have to think of an LLC as its own living, breathing entity. Money goes in to an LLC as revenue. It pays its expenses. And depending on how it's set up as far as tax structure, an LLC can be treated several different ways. There is no LLC tax form. Okay. By default, if it's a single member LLC, it's a sole proprietorship. So it's treated as a Schedule C on your personal tax return. If it's a multi-member LLC, then it's a partnership. You can elect to treat it as a subchapter S corporation, C corporation. So you can treat it multiple different ways. Now, if it's a sole proprietorship, you're allowed to take a draw from the company. If it's a partnership, you can take distributions as partnership. As an S corp, you could take distributions. You can take paychecks. A C corp, you can take dividends, or C corp. There's there's restrictions in that. You need to talk to an accountant. But it's incredibly important that you don't pay personal expenses directly out of your LLC. And it's incredibly important that the revenue that you make with the LLC goes into the LLC directly. Because if you don't, then you lose that liability protection, and they call it piercing the corporate veil. So the whole purpose of it is that if that LLC were to get into a lawsuit, that the only assets that are up for grabs in that lawsuit are the ones owned by that LLC. So for instance, if you have rental property in that LLC and a tenant were to fall and sue the LLC, they could theoretically end up with the asset, that rental property, but they can't come after your home.
The buck stops there. It
stops there. So it's really important that you don't do anything to pierce your corporate veil. So just be very, very careful on how you treat that, because they'll see something on TikTok, I need an LLC, they'll set it up, they don't treat it right. Well, that LLC doesn't mean anything if you're not treating it correctly. And, people get ahead of themselves. It's really simple to set up an LLC because there's so many websites that do it for such low prices. So the barrier to entry is so low that people think it's so simple that the ease of access is so easy. Yeah. It's there that
different than
there's not enough education there to understand how the LLC works.
Right.
So it's probably best to actually consult an attorney or an accountant to really understand how it works so that you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, because even on the state's website, you can set that up.
Yeah, you can go directly to the state website, the IRS website, set up your EIN, the state website, set up your LLC. It's not really hard to do. We do it on a limited basis. I won't do it if there's more than one member involved. Basically, all the work that I'm doing is basically doing registration work.
Right.
I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice. I don't do any sort of legal documentation. I'm not allowed. I get in a lot of trouble for that. So I will not prepare any legal documentation. I'll get you an EIN number. I'll register you on the state website. That's all I'll do. If you have more than one member, I refer it to an attorney.
Right.
In the past, I have set people up and it has gotten, I don't like it. I had a client long ago that had 5 partners. And the first thing I said to them when I walked in is I said, is everybody here going to be a partner in this business? And they said, yeah, we're all family. And I said, there are too many people in this room. And they went, no, we love each other. And I said, do you know what my advice is? And they said, what? I said, you know the best way to lose a best friend? And they said, what's that? I said, go into business together or move in together.
Yeah, I think we had this on an episode where we talked about I said plan the divorce when you're planning the marriage.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like 2 people enter into a partnership and, hey, everything goes great. Well, in 6 years, one person doesn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
You know, one person doesn't want to close. One person wants to just get away. You got to plan all that. This is how it starts. This is how it ends. This is what it looks like.
And we had Rocco on, and Rocco's great for that. And I've had Rocco do a lot of work for me in that regard. You have to have that drawn out. And even in the best intentions, you can have somebody in a partnership that works out great. You know, and we had Jill and Jess on, and they're great. But take something else into consideration, that even if they're great together, what happens if something happens to one of them?
Right.
But just because we're best friends, if something happens to you, doesn't mean that I want to work with your wife.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
So you have to have some sort of agreement drawn out to not only what happens if we have a disagreement, but what happens if something happens to one of us.
Right. What's it look like?
And how do we get out of this?
Right.
It's important.
I don't think a lot of people look that far down the road.
You have to.
But yeah, I think the more you put up at the beginning, even if you're arguing about it at the beginning, it's like a prenup. You can argue about it all you want. You never have to go to the chest to get the prenup. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But at least it's there, because the argument's going to be 20 times what it is at the end.
Yeah.
You know.
Think about it this way. If you get into a big, knockdown, drawn out battle, you're motherfucking each other. We're done here.
At the beginning.
And you're like, we're done. Well, what do we do now? Well, let's get out this piece of paper. Let's figure out what we're going to do. Well, right here it says that this is what we do. All right. Okay. Oh, right here.
Right.
Okay. This is what we do. All right. All right.
This is what we do.
This is what we agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is what we do.
Right.
It's done.
And that was during the honeymoon phase where things were happy.
We figured it out. When we liked each other, we agreed to this. This is what we're going to do. We signed. It's legal. We're bound to this.
Right.
It's done.
Yeah. There's no opinion in that.
You're not going to agree now. Like, we're not going to be able to come to an agreement now. Right. So while you still like each other, come to an agreement, because once you're pissed at each other, good luck.
Yeah. Don't ever, just because like we're trying to give some advice, and who am I to give advice? But don't ever enter into a partnership when it's not 50-50. Like, because that it doesn't matter if it's 70-20 or 51-49. That 1% can kill you.
Yeah, it's really tough. It is really, really tough.
Because if you don't plan, like we're talking about, like if you don't have that end game plan, then when the end comes for that 51%, they can just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
In the best nature of the business.
Yeah.
I used air quotes for that. And I'm sure you've seen that where like people get steamrolled. You know? I lived it. So
you got to be careful what you sign, man.
I lived it. I was very fortunate to live it from afar. It was, a family member. It was my mother and stepfather. But it was like a life lesson that they paid for that I got to learn from. Because, I would never, like people will say, well, I have the building that we're working out of. I deserve. It's like, no, because if you plan on giving it all, you better own at least 50%. If you plan on maybe just investing, it's fine. But like if you're going to be there every day, 6-7 days a week, working, you better be at least half. Yeah,
and that's the other thing that makes these partnerships difficult, is that's what stemmed the argument with the 5. Is not most of the time with a partnership, all the people in the partnership don't always have the same amount of money to throw in.
Right.
Most of the time they don't. So everybody has something different to throw in, right? Whether it's time and effort or money or knowledge, right? But 9 times out of 10, one of them is going to resent the other one because they don't think that they put in as much effort or time or money as the other person.
Right.
And then you end up with a disagreement because I'm working more hours and this person's not helping and this is that. And it happens all the time. And if I had $1, man,
yeah,
it's really hard. And I have to say, I do have a lot of clients that are partners. I have a lot of guys that are in construction that they get along really well. Sometimes they're just both hardworking guys that both were in construction fields for a long time, working for other guys and decided, hey, we can do this on our own. Sometimes it's more of like a yin and a yang, where one was in sales and one was like out in the field, and now they're working together, kind of doing their thing, but they both bring like a different aspect to the table, and they work really well. But partnerships, man, they take work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a place for it. Usually it's like one knows the product and the other person knows the book end of it. But like, I think that you need to really secure yourself. Like, you might trust each other today, but all it takes is like, especially you got a situation where the husband has a job and makes money and they're going on vacation, and it just takes one fight and it can be all to shit. So that would be my, I don't like to give advice on here, but like, we talked about it, and I kind of like, I bohummed the thought of like bringing an attorney in on day one.
Yeah.
My point of that was like, don't go get an employee handbook and like spend all this money that you don't need to spend. Keep it light at the beginning, but maybe bring a lawyer in to set up the principles at the beginning. So
yeah, my advice would be the attorney.
Yeah.
And my other advice would be be open and honest and blunt. Don't leave anything on the table, or don't leave anything behind to put it all out on the table. And you have to be open and honest with each other. Don't hold back. And you just can't, if you have something on your mind, can't be afraid to say it.
Yeah, definitely communication.
You have to communicate with each other. Yeah. Resentment, holding shit back just causes resentment, and that resentment builds up. And next thing you know, you're motherfucking each other.
Well, that's like back in the day, like when people would say like, don't look, you don't want to, like if you're in a relationship, don't look at your other spouse's emails, or don't go surprise them at college, because what you see might not be what you think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do have some suspicion of something, it doesn't hurt to maybe ask or look, but communication is the biggest, I think.
100%.
I'm learning that more now in my personal life and my work life, because I might have a small issue with a client, but if I don't communicate that small issue with them, it becomes a really big fucking issue. And like, I'm guilty of it. It's like, it's just a spot. I'll get it out. It'll be there next week. But if I don't communicate that with them, they don't know. They think I lost it. They think I'm wearing it to the fucking Steeler game or something. Yeah. So, but yeah, I figure we keep it light. It is tax season. So I figure we talk a little bit about that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to listen to shows like this. And I try to think about what I listen to podcasts for. And I don't always listen to industry specific things, because there's like maybe one podcast ever about dry cleaning.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think there's people, like, we're trying to talk to these people and give them a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably people out there that have been thinking about doing some little thing, and maybe they're analyzing and they've been thinking about it for a long time and just don't know how to make that first step. And maybe this will give them the drive to just say, hey, fuck it, let's open up that account and do it.
That's usually what happens to me after a podcast. Like, not our podcast, but if I listen to a podcast, I'm like, all right, now I need to know everything about this. So, but yeah, that was very informative. I knew you'd have the answers for me, so I appreciate that. That was good, man.
That's it.
Till next time.
Short and sweet.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.